you can't handle this. Black women, we strong. Honey, even the Bible tell you to cast your cares. So who said we got to carry all this stuff, and all the things we're carrying is killing us? Yeah. And so I want to give people permission today. If you feel like you need it, even though you don't, free yourself. Didn't Fantasia say, go ahead and free yourself? You know.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley, and I'm so happy you came by. The Queerly Blax Show aims to normalize the everyday existence of Black, LGBTQIA+ individuals through an interview-style series with regular folks like you and me. So every week, a new guest shares their story and unique perspective on their existence as an LGBTQIA+ individual. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure you subscribe, download, set your reminders to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Enjoy the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley, and I'm here with a very special guest today. We got Miss Carla R. Cannon Lawrence with us. We're going to talk about a lot of different stuff. We're going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about coming out again. I want you to tell them how you became the trailblazer. Go ahead and talk to the people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? I am Carla R. Cannon Lawrence. Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you so much for having me. Absolutely. So for those who don't know, I do serve as a holistic coach, a holistic transformation coach, where I teach women how to heal what's still hurting while discovering their authentic voice and awakening their inner boss. And so, coming out story. So,
before we get to your coming out story.
Okay, trailblazer.
What was the first... Before we go to the coming out story, because I think the coming out story is a little later than this question. When did you first have an understanding of your sexuality?
So my situation, y'all, I'm writing a book called Journey to Finding Me, right? It's my 12th book, but I was in my early 20s, and I wasn't interested in women. Like, I loved, men, so I thought. And I hung around my cousin every single day, and my cousin had a cousin. So we was cousins on opposite sides. Mm-hmm. And all of us was hanging every day. And I remember one time I experienced heartbreak from this guy. And so my cousin's cousin was gay, a stud, and I became very comfortable around them. And then when I experienced the heartbreak, she came at me. And I'm going to be honest, my first experience with a woman was horrible. But it was horrible. But I knew, I said, she's just horrible. But it got to be better than this. But it piqued my curiosity. And from there, that situation led from one woman to another woman to another. But for a while, it was kind of both. It was like, whatever I liked in that moment.
Bisexual, in a sense.
We ain't got to put no labels on it.
We ain't put no labels on it. We ain't gonna put no labels on it.
I just liked what I liked, Ashley.
Right. At the moment. I got you.
Whichever way the wind blew me, that's where I went. You understand?
I got you. All right.
I was trying to figure it out. I had a kid. I was a mom at 18, so I had a daughter. It was a lot of pressure. I grew up in church. So, like everybody else, you kind of grow up, that ain't right. So there was always this constant battle, but it felt good. Mm-hmm. It felt good sexually, but emotionally, a lot of them were toxic. And so I didn't get into love and all of that until I met my wife.
Nice. So it was a pretty big journey, just like of exploration and just trying to figure it out and understand yourself, while understanding life and balancing all of that with religion, which brings me to ultimately your coming out story. So what was and I know it's complicated, so we can keep it short. And then when the book comes out, y'all go get the book. Y'all can turn the pages, eat your popcorn, read it all, get all the details, get all the juicy stuff. But for today, we just go on, we gonna get the highlights, get a big topics to the people.
Okay, and it's crazy because I can smile about it now, but it has been a very, very painful journey, very painful. So back, you got to think. So I'm 37. I was in my early 20s with all of this, so I was pretty much experimenting and didn't know what, just like, I'm a dibble dabble, whatever. But then when I realized, like, nah, I feel, I like this. I went through that whole process of dating women and all of that, and was very open, always very open and out. But because I grew up in church, and then during that time I had my magazine, and so I was doing ministry stuff. And I was pretty much always told, like, that ain't right, that ain't God's will for your life. And so, long story short, ended up becoming a licensed minister and went a period of time without dealing with women. And so I was told, the pastors told me, Ashley, they said, you delivered, God has delivered you. So I believed it because I'm
Yeah.
like, I ain't dealing with nothing. But so I went a while being celibate. And what I learned later was that it was suppression. It was suppression. It wasn't deliverance. It was suppression. And so in 2013, I wrote my first book called The Power in Waiting. What do you do when what God said don't line up with what you see? And the
Mm.
book really was about the how we have the promise of God and we have the manifestation, but how do we get from promise to manifestation? You have the process. So the book was really about not giving up in the process, right? How to live through whatever is being prophesied to you, whatever you believe in God's call you to do. But in this book, I shared that I was delivered from homosexuality. So people took that. I'm talking about a whole bunch of other stuff, childhood trauma. I'm talking about all these things, but they saw that delivered from homosexuality. I started getting booked like crazy and I'm speaking, I'm traveling everywhere. But I'm so grateful to God that I wasn't one of those preachers who bashed others who was gay. I said, God, you looked out for me because I was so bound and blind by religion. So I was just sharing my story, like, yo, but nobody ever talked about love. It was, it was more so just saying sex is wrong. It's not of God, da, da,
Mm-hmm.
da. And so look, what people don't know, I need to do a power and waiting to part two, child. But what people don't know is a little bit after I released the book, that within 24 hours hit Amazon's #1 bestseller and went on, and still today, out of all of my books, still is one of the top selling books because it's really a good book. It's just
Yeah.
that small part. But I ended up with another woman, child,
Mm-hmm.
privately. So
Yeah.
that was pretty much, and I heard a lot of people in the process. I did because I can remember the cycles of just constantly breaking up with girlfriends. Like, I can't do this. This is not of God. And it was a struggle. And so I'm stringing all these people along, and I'm trying, and I just,
Yeah.
it was a struggle. And so it's been hard. It's been very hard, especially when you think about people you've hurt in the process and even hurting myself. But I wouldn't take my journey back for anything because I wouldn't be in the place that I'm in now and have such an appreciation for authenticity and really understanding how to be who God has called me to be and free myself from the opinions of other people, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure. And um, I think that's really a thing people definitely battle with. Is like, even if it's not uh, the church, it's, living up to your parents' standards. It's, the pressure of like, what are people gonna say? That's the one you hear all the time.
I see, my
Um,
mama was cool. I'm gonna tell you my coming out story to my
yeah.
mama. My first coming out story to my mama, right? And we can talk, right?
Yeah.
Opinions.
Oh, absolutely. We
So
family.
I remember I was like, I went to my mom and I was like, so, Ma, I got something to talk to you about. My mom's real cool. And she was like, what? She just like, she working, she ain't paying me no mind. I was like, so I was stalling. And she was like, okay, what is? She like, she went down the list. Like, I know it ain't this because that. I know it ain't this. And then the last one, I know you ain't gay because you love dick. That's what she said, right? My mama
Whoa,
believed her.
that's something my mom would
And,
say.
and
Low
when
key,
she
that's something my
said
mom
that,
would say.
when she
Yeah.
said that, I was like, oh. And she said, you gay?
Yeah.
Oh, watch this. Like most parents, oh, it's just a phase.
Yeah.
You will be all right. And so I don't have the experience of my mom shunning me or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. Like one of the girls I used to date, my mama, the first girl I dated, my mom really, I feel like my mama liked her by default because my mama used to date her daddy. So
Mm.
I don't have the experience. I know it. Now you see why I'm a writer.
I
I
love
have
it.
so many stories. But she liked her. Like my
Yeah.
first tattoo.
I'm sure
My
her
first
characteristics
tattoo.
was probably similar to her dad. So she was like, oh yeah, I like what I see in
I
her.
love her. When y'all coming over? My first tattoo was a woman's name.
Oh wow, awesome.
And I didn't even think I was like gay.
Uh-huh.
Is that a thing? But
On the spectrum,
I'm
there's like,
still I'm still trying to figure it all out. It's a little
yeah,
complicated sometimes.
yeah, I got
But
you.
yeah, that's how my mom responded. It's
Wow.
a phase. And so I was like, okay, maybe it is a phase, so I'll have fun with it.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, there were times that I thought there were certain women that I really loved until I met my wife. It's something about when you're married, so I'm sure you get this. because none of those versions of me was the authentic me,
Mm-hmm.
fully, completely. And so when I ended up, I know I'm fast forwarding, but when I ended up with my wife, and we can always go back however you want to do it. When I ended up with her and I experienced her love and the love I have for her, I'm like, this that I feel for you, that's why I married her.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't never felt this for nobody
Mm-hmm.
ever. And that's a whole nother story because we writing
Mm-hmm.
the book together too, because that was a lot. We've been together 6 years. So you got to think I was functioning, and I'm still a minister. Like, that's just who I am. I love God. I love his word. I've just learned how not to be manipulated by his word. I know that some things apply then, it don't apply now, but that's another conversation. So I was privately this minister, the trailblazer, just doing all this stuff, talk show, traveling, hosting events, writing books, coaching women, doing all these things. But privately, I had a whole girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my wife have lived together since 2016. We married May 1st, 2021. And when I made that decision to marry her, that's when I was like, yo, I ain't hiding this no more. So I would share all of who I was, but I kept my love life private. But it wasn't, I convinced myself, oh, I'm private.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, I wasn't ready
Mm-hmm.
for, 'cause all I'm thinking about is, man, I said I was delivered. So I had all these thoughts of feeling hip. And I hope this helps someone that maybe that's in minute, or maybe the story somehow is synonymous to mine. But you have a right to change your mind.
Yeah.
You know, you have that freedom and that liberty. And when I had a suicide attempt back in March 2021, and I literally took a whole bottle of pills, and it was the pressure, Ashley, the pressure of all of these people that I've helped. And because you got to think, when you come out and say you've been delivered, I had so many lesbians reaching out to me, and I'm helping them, I'm ministering to them, but I love them through it. It wasn't like this ain't God. It was my here's the bottom line. I learned, for me it was promiscuity.
Mm.
I talk about that. I was
Mm-hmm.
sleeping with this chick, that chick, this nigga, that whatever I wanted to do, but I was suppressing all the pain, childhood traumas, unresolved grief, all of these things that I had encountered. And so when I had this breakdown and I took a whole bottle of pills, and it was my wife who saved she was my girlfriend at that time, fiance. But when she saved my life after that, I said, this is called this secret almost cost me my life. Nah,
Yeah.
I can't. And so then when we got married, it still took me some time because I didn't come out. So you got to think, I came out the first time in 2013. I didn't come out again
Mm-hmm.
until October 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And there was when I shared that, Ashley, because I was writing the book Journey to Finding Me. And I'm thinking, this is where I'm going to just bear it all. I'm going to put it all in there. But I hosted an event. I host events. And so I hosted an event last year called Woman Heal. And I thought the event was for the women. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. Women travel from all over the
Mm.
country to be in the room with me. I had no guest speaker. It was just me. And they came. And I thought that was just for me. I mean, I thought it was for them. But ultimately, it was for me. This was the first event my wife was at. I didn't announce who she was,
Yeah. She
but
was there as an attendee, and
after the
mm-hmm.
event, my daughter was like, so mom, my daughter, she's 19 in college, sophomore in college. She's like, mom, you know you came out at the retreat, right? I said, what you mean? She said, you was calling Cherie Bay. My wife's name is Cherie. You was calling her Bay. This was the first event that I've been at, that I've hosted, that my wife had come to, where I didn't treat her different.
Mm.
However we moved at home, she was my assistant. She handed me my tea. She was doing all, and people are there. And if you paid attention, I mean, like, there was
Yeah.
one time I'm speaking, Ashley, and it was like this. I rented a mansion, and there was like this staircase where you can like look over the living room, because I had everything in the living room. And I looked up at my wife, honey, she was looking so good, and I lost my whole train of thought.
In
And
the
that
middle of the
happened a
conference.
couple of times. And I'm like, if they was paying attention, they knew. But so anyway, after the event, I was like, that's not enough. It's still, to me, I needed to do it for me. I was like, that ain't clear. Now, mind you, me and my wife, it was so stressful. Like, when I go with my ministry friends, I would have to change the picture of me and my wife on my phone and put it on silent, didn't answer her calls. It was just stress. We're talking about years of this. It was so stressful. And then finally, I was like, no, I had her made her keep her social media pages private. And now people knew we were friends because that's
Yeah.
how we started out, but I just didn't update them and tell them that it had changed. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
You
they
ain't changing
knew
the
her,
relationship status on Facebook.
you know, they knew that was my
Yeah.
friend, but they didn't know that was my boo thing. You know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about? So,
Yeah.
and so it still wasn't enough for me. So I called her one day. She was on her way to work one morning. This is after the retreat in October of last year. And I said, babe, I'm about to do it. She like, do what? Because she told me, she would always tell me, she said, one day, babe, because my wife has been openly, she knew she was a lesbian at like 5,
Yeah,
6,
she sound like
I don't
me.
know.
She sound
Yeah,
like
like
me.
very young, you know what I'm saying? And so she's always been open. So you got to think she was in a long-term relationship, but really wasn't happy, whatever. But openly with this person to come into this, now you get with this minister and you're private. So that's a whole nother kind. You might have to have her on the show to talk about how she dealt with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, I'm about to tell the people. I can't wait for the book. I said, I have to get this out now. I have to do, it was something in me. It was all just the culmination of things that had happened over time. The suicide attempt. I got diagnosed with mild PTSD. I got put on antidepressants. Then I hosted a retreat. It was just so much. And that was my first time. I've been hosting events for 10 years. But that Woman Heal retreat was my first time being authentically me. And it felt amazing, Ashley. So I went online, went on Facebook, and I posted a picture of me and my wife. But I still wasn't clear. And after I posted it, I said, that was cute. So me, it always took, I had to gradually get there. I said, that was cute, but that's not enough. So I did another post and I posted our wedding pictures. I had never posted our wedding pictures. And I said, just so we're clear, this is who I married, and this is who I love, and this is who I am. And it went bananas. And you got to think, the number one thing I feared for so long, because I run a 6-figure business, I'm doing great success, professionally, and so everybody's fear, even my mom. So you got to think, my wife been around my family, all these things. It took time, but we ended up around each other's family, but we still kept it private. And everybody's fear was, what about your business? Because predominantly for a long time, it was faith-based people who patronized my business and my services. And the opposite happened, though, Ashley. The opposite happened. So I just want to say to those who are afraid of being their authentic selves, there is a reward on the other side. Can't nobody tell me, Ashley, that God didn't call me. Can't nobody tell me I'm not anointed, that I'm not prophetic, that God hasn't blessed me. Can't nobody tell me I'm going to hell. The day we was about to get married, the day before, I'll never forget. And I have been praying and asking God to show me all along. And I've seen God move. Like, I prayed over the sick, seen them recover. You got to think, hands, like straight up ministry. I've been in Kojic, holiness, every denomination you could think of, your girl has been there. And I would pray very specific things. And so the day before we was going to get married, I said, God, if I am making a mistake, show me. I said, I'm going to do whatever you tell me. Me and God tight. I'm like, I'm going to do whatever you tell me. So my phone goes off. I'm sitting in my hairstylist. This is when I had hair child. That was another thing. Me cutting my hair, that was an outward expression of an inward change. It was almost like a baptism. So it's been a whole process. So my phone goes off 5 o'clock in the morning, get my hair done. And it's a very well-known preacher. If I said her name right now, a lot of people would know who she is, because people on both sides, everybody love her. And she's white. She don't look like me. But she texts me 5 o'clock in the morning. Right after I said this prayer, Ashley, I was scared to death.
You're like, what's this lady about to say to me?
I'm like, because I just told God, if I'm making a mistake, show me, talk to me. I'm like, I would go to church. I'm like, let them call me out. That would never happen. When I go to church, Ashley, they would just prophesy, you're going to be a millionaire, all the great things. I'm like, can y'all see the pain? Like, that would be my frustration with church, is y'all say y'all know the word, but y'all ain't got no discernment. I've been in churches with my girlfriends, and because I look like this, they will overlook me and call them out. I'm like, we together, though. You don't even know it. So anyway, girl, her text message was about something completely, it had nothing to do with what I was praying about. And that's when I said, okay. Let me get out of my own head and detox my spirit from all this stuff. And we got married. And when I tell you, Ashley, it was only 6 of us in Myrtle Beach. And it was one of the best days. Apart from having my daughter, it was one of the best days of my life. It was beautiful.
How did your mindset shift from the first time to the second time? Because I know a lot of times what it is, at least, for me, I came out once, but I think when it comes to Christianity, right, and the reconciliation of that, it's, you listen to the preacher, right, and you get your word, and it's like, okay, what he says is he's telling me is right, but then you get your own relationship with God. And that's a whole different thing, right? Like, that's an entirely different situation. So for you, what was that process from the first time to, because you were in church both from, throughout that whole thing. So like, what was your mentality throughout? And then how did that play for you personally, for your mental health, and then how does that show up in your company today, and how you serve the women
Mhm.
that you help in your Women Heal podcast, and just kind of, go right
Mhm.
into all that.
So for me, I found peace with all of it because of the woman I was becoming. I was the complete opposite of my wife. I was not a relationship person. I was kind of like, they would call me a pit bull in a skirt. Like, you spend the night. I mean, you come over, ain't no spending the night. Once we done, get out. Like, I was like a nigga, like straight up. You know what I'm saying? And I did what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. But when I started doing the work, when I started going to therapy, like when I was looking for a therapist, for me, it did not matter if their belief. I wasn't looking for I did not even want a Christian therapist. I'm like, I know the word, I got that part. I need the psychology behind this behavior. Like, why was I promiscuous? Why am I still tripping over the childhood traumas? Because I was physically abused by my mother's second husband. And that's another misconception. People think everybody that's gay or lesbian, they were molested. Not necessarily. You know what I'm saying? I was mishandled, but so for me, I found my peace when just who I was becoming. Like, when I look at how long I've been with one person, Ashley, I was one person. You know
That
what I'm
wouldn't have
saying?
been what he said back in the
Girl,
day.
I got ADHD.
The girl.
I changed my house around. I'm one of them. My wife be like, when I come home, I don't never know what. All I know is gonna be clean. Cause I get bored with all the stuff on the dresser. I get to moving it around. She'll be like,
Yeah.
babe. And I was, I teach how you do anything is how you do everything. And I was the same way with relationships. But how I found peace was I was becoming this person that I never thought I could become. I was becoming loyal. I was being honest. I was loving, and just someone I could really be proud of and not have to hide any aspect of who I was. And at one point, that wasn't always the case, because we all got righteousness and we still got that ratchet.
Yeah.
But I would always hide the ratchet. I would be like, no, I can't show that side and so even today, I believe that this journey has strengthened my life work. I don't just see myself as an entrepreneur. I know that God has called me to be a healer, to help people heal the areas that's still hurting, which I now understand why I had to go through all the things that I went through. Because every client that I service, every woman that, whether I'm helping them operate in their purpose, fire their boss, discover their voice, whatever it is, healing is always connected to that. And I always can relate to some part of their story. And I tell them, I say, you were the reason why I had to go through that. It makes sense, whether it was from childhood, relationships, single mom, whatever it was. And so that's it for me. It was who I was becoming. So when Michelle Obama wrote the book Becoming, I devoured it, because I was like, yes,
that was a big book.
It was, and I read it. I read it. I listened to the audiobook. But I'm gonna tell you, and there were also resources along my journey that helped me. So even going to therapy, I learned that I was the way that I was relationally because of this unhealed trauma, because I still wasn't over the things that happened to me as a kid, not feeling protected, not feeling, being told as a child I was labeled as ADHD and told that I talk too much, and they just always trying to shut my mouth. But and I
you
always,
speak for a living.
It's like people pay me now to hear me speak. You understand? So it's like who we become in the process is what makes the whole journey worth it. I was asked one time during an interview, if you could change one thing about your journey, what would it be? And I almost was offended by the question. And then I had to open my mind and I said, well, I actually wouldn't change anything. Because if you change, which is what happens with scripture, you took out homosexual, you took out what's the word, pedophilia, and you put in homosexuality, you change the whole context of the text. I said, if I change anything about my journey, I might not be who I am today. So I would do it all over again. And we say that, but we don't really mean it. I'm like, nah, I mean it. And I've done some I've been betrayed and I've been the betrayer. And I think that's what attracts people to me is the authenticity. I'm like, I ain't got time to play. It almost cost me my life.
Yeah.
So now when I look at the life work that I do, it just adds more depth to it, because I don't see myself as just an entrepreneur. It's like, no, I'm helping women heal. I'm helping women discover their voice. I'm helping women operate in their purpose. So you think, so my thing is, if I'm working for the devil, okay, because I'm a demon, right? That's what they tell us. God ain't with you, da 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 da. Why he on me so hard? Why he's so mad?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm helping women and men find their their level of authenticity and developing a relationship with God. I'm helping people divorce religion and develop a relationship with God. I almost want to subtitle my book, Journey to Finding Me, how religion almost killed me, but my
Mm-hmm.
relationship with God is what saved me.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't know God, and I'm grateful for all the bishops, pastors, like I grew up in holiness, like I'm grateful for all of that. But there was an imbalance somewhere along the way. You were teaching me how to care for my spirit, but you left out my mind, will, and emotions. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I ended up with these psychological issues, because I didn't know how to process, because all you telling me to do is pray, not go see a therapist. You know how many people I see now, Ashley, clients, and they're still fighting against going to see a therapist because
Mm-hmm.
somebody told them you're weak.
Mm-hmm.
You can't handle this. Black women, we strong. Honey, even the Bible tell you to cast your cares. So who said we got to carry all this stuff, and all the things we're carrying is killing us? And
Yeah.
so I want to give people permission today. If you feel like you need it, even though you don't, free yourself. Didn't Fantasia say, "Go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and
And free
free yourself"?
yourself.
You know, and I know it's comical, and I know I'm sharing this story and not crying, but that's because I've done a lot of healing work. I still
Yeah.
see my therapist every single week. I'm on
Mm-hmm.
antidepressants.
Mm-hmm.
I take them every
Yeah.
single day. And I still know I have faith in God. I know, but whatever, it's a chemical imbalance. And that's the thing. We need science.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the sun, the moon, and the stars. I appreciate astrology. I just ain't about to go outside and worship the sun, the moon, and the stars.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my thing. But where my level of maturity is, if you worship the sun, the moon, the stars, I'm not gonna make you feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Do what works for you. But as for me, the Jesus thing works for me, just without all the interruptions and interference
Mm-hmm.
with these religious people, which I call the modern day scribes and
Yeah.
Pharisees.
Yeah. How often do you see like religion being the root of why people suffer from mental illness because of whatever reason? How often is that a part of their journey?
I can just talk about myself. For me, it played a big part. There are still things you got to think. I've been with myself for 37 years.
Yeah.
And so this coming out thing is still new, like really embracing. Like I have to talk to myself, even when, like, I found myself one day not being authentic. I didn't want to do something and I did it anyway. And I talked to myself, I forgave myself, but I was like, you know what? I ain't doing that no more. If it's something I don't want to do, I don't want to go, I'm not going to do it. So it takes practice. And so there are things I am still, religion, I'm still unlearning. Like one day, like even for me to call myself a healer today, that's growth. Because when that first came about, my therapist told me that in a session. She said, "You a healer." And I struggle. And I said, but wait, and her dad's a pastor and all that. She's not super religious, but her dad was a
Mm-hmm.
pastor. So she understood, she understands me. So I said, but my struggle with that is, ain't Jesus the healer?
Right.
I said, if I go out here calling myself a healer, these
Right.
people gonna think I'm like Kanye, calling myself God. They're gonna think
Right.
I'm crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And she broke it down. She said, she's a word person. She said, let's look at this word healer.
You
She
said
was
we
like,
ain't putting no spit on nobody's eyes over here.
we're not doing. And you know what? When I was out there, like really involved in church and stuff, Ashley, I didn't really touch people. God would use me to just, and that it's like it's all making sense now. Like I wasn't the type that'll lay hands and da 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 da. It's like I would see somebody in the back, and whatever I heard the Lord say, I didn't even have to lay hands on them or anything, and I was speaking. Next, they crying and hollering or whatever. But that's to show, like, it wasn't me laying my hands on you. That's the power of God, and I believe in that. And so I believe the struggle with religion and mental health, it comes from all of the pressure. Like, let's just say I
Yeah.
wasn't gay.
Right.
Let's just say I wasn't married to a woman. The pressure, even heterosexual, so it's really not even about
Mm-hmm.
sexual orientation or
Right.
gender. It's not about any of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I feel like it's too much of this. And what I've learned, I have a lot of work to do. I got a whole marriage. I got a child in college. I got a lot of people I'm responsible for. There's enough work for me to do on Carla. I ain't got time to be judging Ashley and her wife. I ain't
Mm-hmm.
got time to be on social media figuring out, well, what the Kardashians do. Man, I got work to do. I got to mind my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely believe that not even just amongst the queer community, I believe that there's a struggle with that because everybody's trying to figure out, well, what's right versus what's wrong. And my response to that would be, let peace be your guide.
Mm-hmm.
If I that God speaks to us, we ain't even got to go deep with it. He as women, he gave us intuition. It's almost like um, you know, look both ways before you cross the street because you might get
Mm-hmm.
hit by a car.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like trust that intuition. You might meet somebody and you'll be like, I don't. You ever met somebody actually? You be like, I don't know what it is about this person, but I can't really get with them. That's
All the
God speaking
time.
to you, saying, don't trust them. Don't bring them to your house. Don't bring them around your wife. Don't. It don't mean you don't you tripping or you insecure, you
Mm-hmm.
jealous. It makes you smart and you're protecting
Mm-hmm.
what you feel.
Yeah.
So I believe there's many layers, and I believe that religion of many kinds, not even just Christianity. There are gay Muslim. I mean, different cultures and all of
Yeah.
that. So it's not just within the Black community; it's worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, then what do we do? But we're having such these small conversations. And I'm like, no, it's so many people who are struggling, but we got to give them the freedom to explore for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what I always recommend. I'm like, don't listen to just what somebody else tells you.
Yeah.
Like I have a problem. Some preachers, like, God told you to wear dresses. He
Yeah.
tell me not to put on. I don't really like dresses, but that ain't the point. He told you to wear all white.
Right.
Now you go to church and tell everybody that they don't wear all white, they're going to hell.
Yes. So,
Madness.
man, that's so good. That's so good. It's so true too. And I mean, I think I like you said, let peace be your guide and that whole thing, because even we're building this platform. I look at a lot of profiles. I look at a lot of people online, and it's interesting what people tell about themselves just through pictures, captions, like such a small moment of your life. But even in that process, there's a lot of people that no matter how big of the following they have, no matter how big this platform gets, hopefully, saving a whole lot of people, that I just will never have that conversation with, because of, to your point, like there's something about it that just for me is just not, it's not complete enough for this platform and for us, trying to really help people and really um normalize us, queer people. There are a lot of misrepresentations. There are a lot of unfortunate situations that happen that are at the hands of queer people, and it's really hard to defend some of that stuff. And so it's super critical, like that peace thing, and just being true to yourself and not selling out, not being pressured. And but it does play a lot on your mental health, because there's a lot of pressure, whether it's money, whether it's people validation from other people, like if I link with this person or that, then that's going to help me do this, that's going to help me do that. So even to your
But
point
it
about
goes
it not
deeper
being.
than that too, Ashley. Like I be feeling sorry for y'all studs. I'm be honest. Now you got studs, you got stems. It's like
Yeah.
so many. That's I for me, I never liked labels
Yeah, I was gonna
because
say,
as
yeah,
a
because you,
child,
when I first started, and I said, you were telling the
bisexual.
story, and you said the because I think that is important, and I do want you to talk about why, because labels are kind of like they make something finite, like they make something like that's on you, and like now you have to back out of like whatever the label was. You got to like back out of it and say, oh well, I was there, but then this is how I arrived here, and then give another label, and then this is how I arrived here, but
But
our
it's
journey
like
is not finished.
who made themselves God and
Right.
say, isn't life about evolution?
Yep. 100%.
Isn't life about growth and maturation? Isn't that what it's about?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like even with we talked about this privately. Like even sometimes with the LGBT community, like we do a lot, and
It,
I be confused, and I be trying to like calm my people down. I'm like, some of y'all, I be watching TikTok, and some people just going off. I'm like, I really believe that was a genuine question. Some people,
mm-hmm.
like I saw, you remember we was talking, I saw this, see, I'm still about to get it wrong. It was a transsexual, and I kept
Mm-hmm.
calling her but her voice was really deep, so I kept saying he, and I got a whole
Yeah.
wife. I didn't mean it. I'm
Yeah.
still trying to process all of it.
Yeah, I've
You know
done
what
it
I
too.
mean?
I just interviewed I interviewed a transgender guy, and in the conversation I did it, and I immediately apologized, while we were talking, and I was like, look, that's an authentic, genuine moment that I made that mistake. And I think the biggest thing in that conversation, and even before that, because I had another interview with the transgender person too, and I say transgender person because that person's non-binary, so they don't go by he or she. We're on the same page because I always, for me, it's like I'm a, what I would call, I guess, stereotypical. I'm just a lesbian. I'm just a woman that likes women. I'm on the more masculine end of the spectrum as far as a woman, but I am very much a woman. I just like my hat to the back and a hoodie.
But that's just like, people would judge you if you and your wife decided to have a baby. I'm assuming I've seen pictures, so she's feminine, you're more on the masculine side. Mm-hmm. If you decided to have
the world would turn over.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like, we get it everywhere. Why can't we just get to a place of acceptance?
Yeah, and just being people, human,
and just love people. Like, I love talking to all kind of people. That's why when you reached out to me, when we met, I was like, girl, I like you. Like this, I love your energy. I like your vibe. I like people for who they are. I don't care about who you sleep with. I care about your character, your integrity, how you make me feel. If you respect me, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just so many labels.
It is. I think it is. I will say, I think a part of me doing this, right, is to get the understanding, right? Like, we need the even in our community, we need the understanding. And I think for me, where I've arrived and what I understand is a lot of the language, there's like, Victoria, she went the first guest that I had, she was like, I read somewhere there's like 100 like labels, like non-binary labels, right? And I think the devil's advocate flip side is people trying to find a place that they feel like, trying to fit that societal norm of like, where's my box?
Mm-hmm. Where do I fit?
And so we developed this whole language because of a societal norm. Like this whole construct was created because we have to check a box. And to your point, we can't just be people. We can't just be human. We can't just be whoever we are. It's like, no, because that doesn't make sense to me. What is that? Like, it gotta fit somewhere. We have to fit. Like, everyone has to be in a place. So because we're so dynamic, because people are so dynamic, we had to create a whole language. But it's like, can we just eliminate that whole thing? And
I just want somebody to send the book out, like just to update. Just update. I don't be updating. Like, I just saw "Don't Say Gay." I'm like,
yeah. Oh, the Florida thing. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a lot.
And the reason why I brought that up is because I want gay people. Sometimes we do carry a sensitivity, depends on
100%.
where we are in our healing journey. We carry a chip on our shoulder. And sometimes all my life I've had to fight. But some people are not trying to fight you, they're trying to understand you. But when you give off that energy and that vibe, it's like, okay. And so even with that, I struggle with that. I struggle with finding my place. I never felt like I fit in church. I didn't feel like, but then watch this. When I went over into the marketplace and I'm thinking, I'm gonna find my place, I didn't fit there either. So then I had to just be like, you know what? I'm just me. I'm just Carla. I don't have to put myself in a box or be a label, because I'm a little different too. When I put my hoodie and Tim's on, I even walk different versus when I got my stilettos on. It is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So for me, I think I just want us to get back to the basics of love.
Yeah.
And that in which we don't understand, ask questions, but do it in the best of your ability. I know for us, we're real big on affirming, but some people, watch this, some people can't affirm you because they don't even know how to affirm themselves.
100%.
They're still seeking validation from this one and that one and that one and this one. So we're looking for, I need an affirming church and I need an affirming this, but it's like, learn how to give to you. You are what you've been missing. And that's what happened on my journey. It was as if God reintroduced Carla to Carla. And I was finally able to see myself in the most authentic form. I had real long hair. I cut it off. I had somebody say something so stupid. She said, I knew you was gay when you cut your hair off. I said, if that ain't the dumbest. So, and all the women on my platform that got short hair was like, so I guess I'm gay.
So I guess, right.
So, in other words, ignorance for some people is inevitable,
Yeah.
but we cannot continue in these text battles. Like me, I will have an intellectual conversation, but I don't argue with fools.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even, the more followers, me and my wife, we just hit 30K on TikTok. And when we was at like 2000, everything was amazing. It was all love. But now we getting you're going to hell and the da 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 da. I
Yeah.
don't argue with those people. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. I hit two buttons. One is for block, the other is for delete the comment.
Mm-hmm.
And I move on with my life. I've had enough interferences. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
at and it's something about when you get to that place, actually, when you want to take your life. Like, I was so low, and I made a promise to myself that this ain't about my wife, this ain't about my daughter, this is about Carla. I will never allow anybody to push me to that point again. Say what you want to say. You don't like me, don't fool with me. What? We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
go back to Fantasia. What Fantasia say? If
Well,
you
for
don't like
yourself.
me, then don't talk to me. You
Don't talk to
understand?
me. Yep.
Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Do you, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna do me. And we just gotta learn how to coexist. And if we can't coexist respectfully, then you go your way and let them go their way. But I want us to just learn how to love ourselves and stop looking for others to affirm what we should be affirming.
100%. Yeah. How do you in your work, how do you help people like get, because a lot of it is obviously people trying to get to a certain goal, but there's so much other stuff that has to be done to get to that goal a lot of times. How do you
Mhm.
help people get to that place of like, you're enough, like you got
Yeah.
this? What does that
So
look
with
like?
what sets me apart as a professional coach is I focus on relationship building. I really work to build an intimate relationship with my client because they're sharing their lives. Even if they come to me and say, "Oh, I want to fire my boss, or I want to build my business," we still end up getting to the healing because I got to know who you are. So the assessments that I use, the techniques, and I believe that I carry a grace to know how to talk to people. Like, even on my podcast, Woman Heal, I'm interviewing women who have been molested and all of this. And you got some women who their first time sharing their story is with me.
Mm,
I did an interview recently with a young lady, and her sister messaged me. She said, "I knew you were the perfect platform for my sister to share her story. You handled her with so much care." And so that's how I do it, amongst the techniques and the systems and everything. But a lot of it is because of where I've been. I was a queen, the queen of masking. So I need my spiritual gifts. I need discernment. I need Holy Spirit. I always say Holy Spirit is the master coach. I say God is the CEO of my business. I'm the COO. I walk out his directives. And then when something is not working, I go back to him. What I'm freaking out for? I'm just the manager,
mm-hmm,
right? And so I bring my relationship with God with me in this. I'm still a woman of faith.
mm-hmm,
I bring all of that with me, and it creates a comfort to them. And they, most of the time, they've read my books, they listen to my podcast, so they know my story, and they come in feeling safe, which makes me feel like amazing, because I know the way society is, everyone is guarded.
mm-hmm,
But they come in, and then I'm like, "Listen, let's talk about it." And when they unveil themselves, I unveil myself. I pause and say, "Listen, I can relate to that. I've been there. I know
mm-hmm.
what that's like. Let's go deeper." And so I'm speaking, and while I'm getting the information, I'm affirming by just speaking in alignment with them. But then I'm also not afraid to challenge them to go deeper. Challenge them. Hey, I know you want to build this business, but you still got unprocessed grief over here. Do you mind if we pause with building this business so that you can experience longevity? Let's deal with this right here. And they trust me because of how I present myself. And the proof is in the pudding. Like, I've been here over 10 years. I've been here a long time, and I don't plan on going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much how, my focus is always build the relationship first.
Yeah.
People got to know, like, and trust you before they just tell you all their business. And then you have to show some empathy. And I believe,
Yeah.
for me, it's hard for me to listen to somebody that I can't relate to.
Mm-hmm.
Like the goody two shoes people, I know we all got a story, but I don't really do well with those kind of people, because I'm like, I'm probably dirty to you, honey, because I done been everywhere,
Right.
But
Right.
give me the dirty people. That's why I love DMX.
Mm-hmm.
Like can't
Mm-hmm.
nobody, like, to me, I feel like DMX going to heaven. I just
Yeah.
do. I feel like he was a preacher. I'm like,
Yeah.
he was a preacher with a struggle. I'm like, who said that the pulpit, to me, and that was always my mindset, my pulpit is wherever I am in the moment. You know, my pulpit is right here talking to you.
And he prayed
And
at it after every
what?
show, and he
His prayer
messaged
was
them
more
in.
powerful than some of these preachers that I've
Seriously,
heard before. You
seriously,
know, so
yeah.
yeah.
I
Hmm.
wanted because you help people with business, right?
Hmm.
And this was something that I learned when I got into leadership in work, is how your personal triggers, or we'll say traits, and the way that you deal with your personal relationships is directly correlated to the way that you deal with your business relationships. And you know, the challenge that people have with like thinking that they can compartmentalize that, like I act this way at work and I act this way, but then as soon as you get an angry email or someone words something the way you didn't like, and you get set off, and then you be like, hey, you know, you ask a coworker, is she trying to say what I think she's trying to say? Or, you know, is that, or if you're building you're an entrepreneur, so a customer asks you something in a way that may not be your taste, and you're like, oh, I can't work with them because, how important is it? It sounds like it's critical, right? You stop people in the middle of their development to say, hey, we got to deal with this. Why is that so important to do? Like, why is it so important to reconcile the personal in order to be like to flourish on the business side?
Hmm. So it goes because how you do anything, I'm gonna always say this quote because it's the foundational, one of my foundational principles that I teach. How you do anything is how you do everything. Think about it, whether it's your personal life, whether I'm with my wife or I'm with a client, I'm still the common denominator in both. And so, because I'm all about liberation and freedom and authenticity, it's like now we understand, like, you know, you got some people where you may only show one side, like, you know, it's not, and
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's being phony. That's you assessing your environment and
Mm-hmm.
understanding. But I'm not gonna change the way I talk. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost the best way I can explain it.
You're still
It's
authentic. You're
almost like,
just in your when in Rome kind of thing. Like you're not in an
yeah,
environment where that the you know where certain parts of you are
yeah,
necessary, I guess.
like I had a friend who she was from Trinidad and Tobago. When me and her would talk, you could hear the island, but I could understand her. Now, when I went to Trinidad and Tobago and she got around her cousins and all them, I didn't know what they was talking about.
Right.
So you see what I'm saying? And that didn't make me feel like, oh, when she's with me, she's one way. It's like, no, I'm her friend, but this is her environment. She was over in the States with me. And that's even when it comes to, and this gonna go together, but even in building friendships, you need to be in that person's environment and they need to be in yours because watch this, Ashley. We all have different sides.
Mm-hmm.
You can meet me today and feel like I'm the most amazing. She is so powerful and anointed. And I could have cussed somebody out last week and they be like, that Carla Cannon is nasty and she da 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 da. And then your response should be, well, what did you do to see that side of her?
Right. I, I don't know that
Yeah,
person.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that side. You know, but again, I think it boils down to how you do anything is how you do everything. And we're not designed to do like, you know, when you go to work, they tell you leave all your problems at the door. If you just buried your mama or you just had a fight with your spouse and you walk into work, so now what you're teaching me to do is mask. And I'm gonna even take it back to the church. I learned how to mask in church because I was that girl. We all come on, Ashley. We all know, you know, the girl the person that be at the altar every week. You be like, now they just got prayed for last week. They just always at the altar. Girl, I was fighting for my life. This is before I understood that I could build an altar in my home. I was the one going for prayer every week. And I could feel people looking at me like, oh my God, she is always down here. But what they didn't know, it's like my heart's desire has always been to please God. Like I'm a God's girl, hands down. It's like to treat people right. I'm like, I don't want to go to here. I just want God to be happy with me, not knowing that it was a character issue. And so I learned because the faces I would get, I learned to just sit and hey, praise the Lord. Yes, God is good. And then I go home and cry and, you know, want to take a bottle of pills and all those things. So, you know, give yourself permission to be your authentic self because, again, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah. Yeah. How is so from you know, when your attempted suicide, and then you know, coming out with your wife, and you know, really just being authentic, uh talk me through like going from that dark place to now, and how your ministry has changed because of your own personal development?
And I love the way you say ministry because my life work is my ministry. Um, so I feel like back in March when I had the breakdown,
This is March 21.
2021,
Okay.
March 20, just last year.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my second suicide attempt in my life. I had done it before in my early 20s. So that was my same thing. Took a whole bottle, but except for the first time I took a whole bottle of pills, woke up with a headache. So I was like, okay, the pill thing just ain't like I knew my life had purpose.
Sis, he not trying to take you out yet. It's not your
Not.
time.
He not. But I believe that it was almost like an inner explosion. I was carrying so much, not just my stuff, but other people's stuff, and just I hadn't learned how to detox. Like even now, I teach my clients how to detox from the day. We carry yesterday and today and tomorrow into so we just bring everything over. And it's like I had to learn how, like I said earlier, casting my cares, like really laying this stuff down. Somebody said something crazy to me. I could still remember, I have a vivid imagination. Like I could remember things that was said, like where we were, what color you were wearing, like, and I'm like, some of the stuff I had to learn to just release it and let it go. I was carrying so much, and I feel like I had an inner explosion. And that's what caused the breakdown. My body was communicating because I was tired all the time, but I was still functioning. Actually, you got to think, when I had this breakdown, I had just taught my Millionaire Mindset Monday class with my students like a couple of days before. And so that's why I tell people, I'm like, be careful how you handle people because you don't ever know what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I was bold enough to share that story. And I didn't feel like, oh, well, my clients are going to think I'm weak or da da da. I always look at it like when we share our story, that makes you human. That makes you relatable.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying? Like when Beyonce and Jay-Z was doing their stuff, all the women was like, yes, we can understand. Beyonce is like us, so she's really not Sasha. Like we could relate.
She is Sasha, but this is the wife of her.
Like,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, no, but when I say Sasha Fierce, it's
I know
like,
what you mean. That's not all that she is. And to your point about the perfect humans, she's human. She has another side of her that's not just this perfect person. Exactly.
We idolize. And so it's like we all done been in a fight, maybe not in the elevator, but we could relate. So for me, it was like that inner explosion. And getting to that place, it took work. And mind you, I was still coaching, training. And then there was a time when I had to close out my practice. When I say close out, meaning just whoever I was working with at that time, I didn't accept any new clients. And I remember God taking me, I clearly heard him like, you need to save you, because I was trying to save and help everybody else. And those of us who are healers and we're empaths and we just love people, you forget to put the mask on you first. So I was helping everybody else to live, but then I was dying. And so clients, family, spouse, I had to push everybody and say, I have to choose me. 2022 is the year that I choose Carla. And so that's how I got from that point. It took courage. It took giving myself the freedom to explore. What do I really feel? Like my wife, she's still getting to know me because I'm still getting to know me.
Yeah.
I'm like, she'll come home with some candy. I'm like, babe, I don't like that no more. She's like, nigga, you just ate this last week. I'm like, I'm done with it though. I'm done.
Yeah.
and she doesn't make me feel bad about it. Like she gets it. Even when she don't get it, she tries. She's like, okay, so gummy savers is safe. I'm like, gummy savers gonna forever be my favorite, baby. Bring me gummy savers anytime. So giving myself permission to, number one, change my mind. Number two, make myself a priority. And number three, protecting my space. And not inviting people into a space that's sacred. My mom would always tell me growing up, she was like, you scare me so much because you're so trusting. Like no matter how, God has given me an ability to love people, Ashley. I've been through so much. If we had time and you knew my whole story, you'd be like, oh my God, girl, how do you even fool with people? Period. And I know that it's just a gift that God has given me. No matter how much I've been hurt, I still love. But then I had to learn all this love I'm giving everybody else. Let me give a portion of that to me, because I am my biggest responsibility. I am my first client.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
This was great. This was awesome. Um, so the the final question I ask every guest is, and you've given a ton of advice, but I'm gonna formally ask you, what advice do you have for someone who is going through any aspect of the journey that you have experienced? What would you tell them?
There's a lot that I would, I could talk. I love to talk. Um, Apart from everything else that I said today, I would say be kind to yourself. Self-hatred is a thing. And even when I would show up looking like this, it was more so for people. It wasn't for me because I used to hate me. And so be kind to yourself while you're figuring it out. Extend grace to yourself, the same grace you have with other people, the same grace you have with your children. Apply that grace to you. So it will be twofold. Be kind to yourself and invite God into that process with you. Not the God that they trying to tell you about,
Mm-hmm.
but invite God into that relationship with you because you gonna need help. You can't do it by yourself. And know that everybody's not out to hurt you and to get you. Release that pain, deal with that pain, go to therapy, talk through it, dig the very area that you don't want to talk about that you have said was off limits for everybody, including God. That's the place I want you to go because on the other side of that is where your true healing and transformation lies.
Awesome. That's it right there. That's it right there. All right, tell the people where they can find you. Tell them what you up to, what's coming out, everything.
Simply carlacannon.com. Carlacannon.com has everything. You can get to my social media, everything, my podcast, when I got new book releases, the books that I've already done, classes, trainings, live events, everything is carlacannon.com.
carlacannon.com. Awesome. All right, well, we are done. This is another episode of the Queerly Blax Show. I'm your host, Ashley. I'll catch y'all on the next one.